There is a practice so ancient, so consistently observed across every century and every country of Jewish life, that it predates the Talmud, predates the Kabbalistic literature of Seift, predates the Chassidic movement entirely. A practice that the sages of every generation identified as one of the most direct and most powerful things a person can do, not once a week, not on holy days, but 3 times each day, to maintain their alignment with the source of provision and keep the channels of abundance genuinely open. And yet most people who perform some version of this practice perform it without knowing what it actually is, what it actually does, and why the tradition said, with remarkable consistency across 30 centuries, that the person who understands it and performs it with genuine awareness lives in a fundamentally different relationship with abundance than the person who does not. Tonight, I am going to teach you this practice in full, the prayer itself, what the Kabbalists said it does in the invisible architecture of a person's relationship with provision, and why the tradition prescribed saying it specifically before eating, not after, not during, but before, in the precise moment that stands as a threshold between the food and the person who is about to receive it, because the tradition teaches that thresholds are where everything is decided, and the moment before eating is, 3 times each day, one of the most important thresholds in a person's financial and spiritual life. We begin in the village of Liozna, in Belarus, in the year 1793. Rabbi Shneur Zalman of Liadi, the founder of Chabad Chassidism, known as the Alter Rebbe, gathered his inner circle one morning and began not with a text, but with a question. He asked, "What is the most dangerous moment in the spiritual life of a person who is seeking abundance?" His students offered answers: the moment of loss, the moment of fear. The Alter Rebbe shook his head at each. Then he said, "The most dangerous moment is the moment just before they eat. In that moment, between hunger and food, between need and provision, a person stands at a threshold. On one side is the awareness of where the food came from. On the other is the food itself, and the hunger that wants only to move toward it without pause, without acknowledgement. The person who crosses that threshold without pausing performs, in that small act, the deepest root of financial blockage, taking provision for granted, receiving without acknowledging, treating what has been given as if it arrived from nowhere. And the person who pauses, who stands at that threshold for the seconds required to speak the blessing, performs the opposite act. I see this. I see where it came from. I acknowledge the source, and I am not crossing this threshold without that acknowledgement. The prayer prescribed by the Jewish tradition before eating is the bracha, the blessing. And the most foundational of these, the one prescribed before eating bread, which the tradition treats as the symbol of all provision, is the Hamotzi. In transliteration, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, Hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Blessed are you, Lord our God, sovereign of the universe, who brings forth bread from the earth. Let me teach you what the Alter Rebbe said this blessing actually does. The blessing has 4 movements. Baruch atah, blessed are you. In the Kabbalistic understanding, Baruch comes from the root meaning to flow, to channel, to draw forth. It is not a compliment directed at the divine. It is a declaration about the relationship. You are the source from which blessing flows, and in acknowledging you as the source, I am opening the channel through which the blessing actually moves. The Alter Rebbe taught, the bracha does not create the provision already exists. The bracha opens the channel. The channel of provision is opened by acknowledgement and closed by indifference. Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, 3 names, each carrying a distinct teaching. Adonai, the personal name, the name of direct relationship. Eloheinu, the name of the universal laws through which provision operates. Melech, haolam, the overarching order within which all provision flows. The person who speaks these names with genuine understanding is orienting themselves in 3 dimensions at once toward the complete reality of the source from which everything they have comes. Hamotzi lechem min haaretz, who brings forth bread from the earth. The Alter Rebbe returned to this phrase most often. He said, look at the verb, not who gave bread, not who created bread, who brings forth. The Hebrew Hamotzi is present tense, active, ongoing, continuous. The source is not a past event that once provided and withdrew. The source is in the continuous act of bringing forth provision right now, at this moment, with this bread. The blessing asks the person who speaks it to receive not only the food in front of them, but the present tense reality of a source that is actively, currently bringing forth provision for them. And when a person speaks this blessing and genuinely receives its meaning, when they stand at that threshold and fully acknowledge the source that is bringing forth provision right now, something happens in the invisible architecture of their relationship with abundance. The channel that was partially closed becomes more open. The orientation toward taking for granted becomes, meal by meal, an orientation toward acknowledged provision. And over days and weeks and months, the cumulative effect is a person whose entire relationship with provision has been quietly, steadily, fundamentally transformed. He then said, I know scholars who pray for hours with genuine intention, and I know simple men who cannot study or pray at length. But among the simple men, I have seen some whose relationship with provision is extraordinary, and when I examine these men carefully, the one consistent practice I find is this. They say the bracha before eating, every time, with full attention, as if it matters, because they were taught it matters, and it does. The students asked, how can something so simple have such an effect? The Alter Rebbe said, because simplicity performed with complete sincerity reaches a depth that complexity performed by rote cannot reach. The bracha takes 8 seconds, but those 8 seconds, if genuine, are 8 seconds of complete alignment with the source of provision. 3 such moments each day accumulate into what the tradition calls Devekut, attachment, the state of being genuinely and practically attached to the source of all provision. The practice is simple. Before every meal, not only Shabbat, not only special occasions, but every meal, pause, stand at the threshold, speak the Hamotzi, or its equivalent in your own tradition and language, and be present for those 8 seconds. Actually receive what the words say. The source is bringing forth provision right now. You are acknowledging it. The channel is open. The Alter Rebbe said to his students before they left, do not make this complicated. It is not complicated. It is 8 seconds. And the tradition teaches that 8 seconds of genuine acknowledgement performed before every meal is worth more in terms of the actual transformation of a person's relationship with provision than an hour of elaborate spiritual practice performed without presence. Because the bracha happens at the threshold, and the threshold is where everything is decided. Subscribe to this channel. Each week I bring you another piece of this extraordinary inheritance, the wisdom of Torah, the teachings of the Hasidic and Kabbalistic masters, the ancient daily practices that have quietly sustained Jewish families through every form of difficulty into lives of meaning and enduring abundance. And in the comments below, tell me, do you say a blessing before eating? And did you know before today what the Kabbalists said it actually does? Your answer is the beginning of a new way of standing at that threshold. 8 seconds, 3 times a day. The channel opens.